Hi everyone, I'm John Lynn, the founder and chief editor at Healthcare IT Today. I'm excited to bring a really interesting topic that I wouldn't have thought about 5 years ago because I don't think it even existed, at least in my mind, and that's digital twins. And today we're sitting down with Niels Thomsen. He's VP and Global Head of Insight, IoT and AI practice at Atos, and also David Sele, consultant and business developer of IoT at Atos. Welcome, David and Niels.
Hi,
Hi.
and thank you for having us. Really excited to be here.
Yeah, so like I said, digital twins is a new concept for me, and newer. I've heard it for a little bit, but so I'm excited to share some of what's happening with digital twins with my audience. But before we go there, tell us a little bit about yourself and Atos. Maybe Niels, you want to start, and then David.
Yes, of course, happy to do so. So Atos is today one of the 5 largest IT service companies worldwide, with 110,000 employees in 72 countries. Really equally divided between US, Europe, and Asia Pacific. Yeah, I myself have been 9 years now in Atos, I think, and the last many years I've been focusing on really developing the area of IoT and AI, trying to solve business issues at our clients.
Excellent. David?
Hi, David here. I'm calling in from Zurich, Switzerland. I'm a consultant in Niels' team, the industrial IoT team, and my focus is mainly on manufacturing and life science.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to hear this, and I love that we have an international crowd. I love bringing international perspectives to the U.S. audience that we have. So what is a digital twin? For those that aren't familiar with it, and maybe where is it being used? Neil, do you want to start that?
Yeah, I can try at least. So digital twin is a concept that I think been known for a long time. There's all kinds of variants of digital twin, but in the last years, what it means and what has been becoming, you say, the kind of default definition within the last, I would say, 3 to 4 years, is really to kind of create a virtual replica of the reality, to then use that to model different kind of scenarios or to watch kind of possible maintenance floors or other areas. So you really can have a replica of the reality to see how reality works under different kind of impacts from wind or from dust or from people or whatever. So the kind of the concepts that are behind it, and by that you can then kind of create a feedback loop into your production sequence to take that learnings into account. Maybe David, you elaborate a little bit. You have, I think, a little bit more depth that you could add to the concept.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the interesting thing about digital twin is that everyone is thinking of something else when he talks about digital twin. So, I mean, you said it's a replica of a physical system, but that physical system can be really different, right? It can be a production process, it can be a wind farm, it can even be a person, a patient. So the concept is the same, but it really depends on which physical system that you model. And one of the things how I understand a digital twin is like when you have 2 steps. So the first step is that you gain situation awareness by analysis of all the IoT data, sensor data, and events. And as a second step, that you use this gained awareness of your system to actually then make better business decisions by also triggering the responses, right, within your business systems.
So David, where are some of the places this is being used in healthcare? You talked about a replica of the patient, but how are organizations using this?
So what I mean, maybe the one of the better ways, let's say, to understand is by taking examples, right? And we can talk a little bit about a specific case study, a project we did for a pharmaceutical manufacturer, and and there it was about a digital twin of the production process for a vaccine.
Okay, so they used it to test against so they could avoid putting patients at risk, or how did that work?
No, actually, it's really more about in that case, it's really more about the production process. So when we talk about our let's say the business owners at the client side, they are the R&D and manufacturing departments who are taking care of actually developing new manufacturing processes, and also looking at how can actually digital solutions help with improving manufacturing process.
I got you. So it's to avoid waste and to see where there could be fallout or other things like that in the manufacturing process.
That's right.
Yeah. Here with this specification, you need to imagine that the production is a kind of a chemical process, and you can basically build a twin of that process, so you can test, is the process in real life actually within the parameters that it needs to be, so that the chemical process would happen in the right way.
Nice.
Normally, you would need to wait for days to see if it's actually happening. And now we can monitor how the mixing process is going to see if we are within the parameters that we should be in.
Gotcha. So you use the IoT data to collect from the different processes to understand, is it in the parameters or is it skewing in a way that you need to address? That makes sense.
Yeah.
So
So
what's
you take the so you take the data of different sensors and at the process, you put it against the digital twin. You see if the parameters are there. If not, then you can either manually or automatically ask to the system to shift temperature or pressure or whatever it could be.
Nice. That makes sense. So what is the process of creating a digital twin, and what technology is used to create it, and and then to test against it? Obviously, we talked about IoT sensors, but what do you see as the process?
So first of all, you need to find out what kind of the process or product would you like to build a digital twin for. Because if it's a specific, let's say a car, you need to do a little bit of a different system than for a chemical process. So that's the first issue. You need to find out what is the digital twin that you would like to build, and for what is the business issue you would like to solve. So that's the first step. The next step is you need to find out how can I model it, with which kind of tools can I use to do that. Then how do I get the data from real life? And there you need IoT systems, IoT platforms. So you need sensoric, of course. You need, of course, an IoT platform to collect the different data, and then you need to feed it into the twin, and then you need to feed it back to the for example, the production process, like the case study that David talked about. Or you need to decide, do you want to do everything directly on site at the production line, which then would need kind of quite heavy compute power directly at the production line, or can I do it in the cloud and feed the results back to a handheld device in some form. So this is kind of the thought process that you need to go through. David, what would you like to add?
I like that you started with the business problem that you want to solve, because for me that's that's key, right? That you put it first, and you actually ask what do I want to achieve. So you have really a well-defined and measurable objective that creates business value. So if you have that, you can then look into which process or which sub process of your system you want to take up to solve that challenge, right? And I mean, I think you explained it quite well. It's mainly it's often kind of a mix of different kind of data. So in a case study I mentioned, it's a mix of actually sensor data plus simulation data. So that will the combination of this data will then will be the basis, or like the training data, to actually build the models, to predict all the parameters, even the ones that were before hidden, and which gives you a let's say a real-time view on your process.
And it feels like this is a confluence, like a digital twin feels like this confluence of technologies, because we've had IoT and sensor data, but it often wasn't connected. And we had analytics data, but we didn't have the processing power to really be able to do the simulations. And now it's kind of like the meeting of those two things, collecting great sensor data, IoT data, and the analytics processes to be able to understand what's happening with all that data and comparing it against a digital twin. Is that a good kind of overall look as this confluence of technology?
Totally, and that also, I mean, that kind of like explains why this technology, or the concept of digital twin, is nothing new, but it's just now with all the computing power and the new tooling, etc. It's just much more feasible to do.
Yeah. So what are the
So could not have
benefits
explained it better. We're spot on.
Yeah. So what are the benefits of these digital twins to the organization? I assume it makes it more efficient, or what did the case study say that as far as what are the benefits, and maybe what are some of the future benefits as we continue to evolve digital twins?
So if you look at the different solutions that we have done with digital twin, let's take the pharma case at the end. One is that you can be better in your production facilities because you know how your product would like to look like. You can take impact from real life and add it to the digital twin to see how it reacts, and you can improve your product. You can improve your production line because you can build a digital twin of your production line. So you can actually see, does it flow in the right way? Is there space for the people to be where they need to be, etc. You can look at your maintenance. So compared to how should the wind turbine run in the most optimal way, and does it do that actually right now, or is there maintenance that you will need to do? So now for the case study that David told about this process for pharma, the business benefits are quite enormous, because we're talking about here that normally they would need time, so days, weeks, to see if the chemical process would actually happen in the way that it should happen, which means that they needed to wait to see, and then worst case they needed to throw out a whole batch, which were extremely amount of very expensive raw material that you throw down the drain. And now they can adjust the process as we speak, as we run. So you save expensive raw materials, but you also have time, faster time to market, because you can produce in the same amount of time. You can basically produce more products, more pills, more vaccines, whatever. But you can then also take and build a digital twin of how a chemical process needs to happen, because you can mathematically calculate that to get a certain kind of vaccine, and then you can start to test against that. So it could also, that is the next step we will need to look into, it could actually also impact the R&D process.
Nice. And what are the limitations of it? It makes sense to do something like this. It makes sense to use the processing power to identify, the issues that are coming and to compare it against a digital twin. Are there limitations that you've seen from the experience?
I think the limitation nowadays are not really in the technology or what we can do, but there needs to be a real business issue, and there needs to be a real business case behind it. And that, I think, that is the limitation on one side. The other side is the limitation of people's belief. because they believe this is bleeding edge, but it's not. It's really taking stuff that has been there, data that's actually been there, and put it together because we now have the tools to do it, the knowledge to do it. So it's also people, main people's belief that are sometimes really a limiting factor at the moment. But David, you have been more deep into some of the projects. So what are you seeing here?
No, I really agree. I mean, the point you made is, I think, is the most important one. It's not about, I mean, it's not about that you need to replicate everything, right? About your system or your process. Otherwise, you get lost in achieving the perfect simulation. But what's the in the end, you need to look at which is really valuable data, right, that you want, and which are the key elements that you want, and then it's also feasible to do.
It's interesting you said the limitation of belief, and then you said it's because they think it's cutting edge and they don't trust it. Is that kind of, when you said that, it really resonated to say, is it because they've been doing this, if they've been manufacturing for 20 years, they have some intuitive understanding of the process. And so then when the data and the digital twin surfaces up something they aren't familiar with, it goes against that natural belief. Is that one of the limitations? Is like, do I trust that data over my own 20 years of experience doing this? Is that one of the challenges?
Would you start, David? Or I think it is. It's hard to look into the head of people, but of course, and it is also a little bit. We have this very complex process, and suddenly we tell the guys, look, we have now replicated it, and you can you can measure it real time, and they will say, yeah, what, right? Is it really working, etc. But of course, it's fair. It's fair that they want to challenge, that they want to test this because they need to. That is their job.
Yeah, that is fair.
Yeah, it depends on the industry, right? On the client, etc. But all this kind of project involving such technologies for especially for manufacturing, but not only manufacturing. I think in all projects there needs to be, you shouldn't forget the change management component, right? So that's definitely important.
Yeah, and illustrating that the sensors really are able to do what they can do, it feels like is part of that trust building process as well.
Yeah.
So where is all this headed? What is the future of digital twins? I think we've talked about the manufacturing side. I'd love to hear about any ideas or concepts you're working on about what might be next, as far as, David even said at the beginning, we could do a digital twin of a patient, which I think is a fascinating idea. What are some of those other things, as far as what's next for digital twins?
I can start.
Okay, you.
Yeah. I don't know. No, I think we both have the same kind of ideas, David, here.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to try to steal your thunder, but just looking at the possibility that technology is not a limiting factor. And we now have COVID, and one of the big things with vaccines or new pharmaceuticals or other thing is that we at some point need to test it on people. But what if we now could build a digital twin of a population? Really exactly, and we can start to test vaccines, pharma, perfume, whatever, on a exact digital twin of a population. Now, is that possible today? Not really. Will it be possible in the future? I think even in the near future. Will it totally limit out test at human beings? No, because the human being is a very complex, creature, so to speak, and it will not limit it out, but I think it can help a long way. It can we do things faster and cheaper, and thereby save more people? I think yes. Can we do digital twin test of car crash that can help to see stuff they've not seen before, things we've not seen before? Yes. Can we do digital twin of vessels to calculate how they react in different kinds of weather to find out how we reduce the amount of fuel that they actually need. Yes, I think that is things that are really easily to do within a very close near future. But of course, a digital twin of a population to help us to be faster, especially in the healthcare area, or for doctors to train their operations.
Yeah, a
You know,
population sure
the
changes
surgery is I think is something that we can do within a near future. But you know, David, I would like to hear your view here as well, because maybe I'm taking too fast
No,
steps.
no,
But
no. I think it's. I think no one has the no one knows the answer yet. But I agree that I think it will really be. I mean, digital twin will be a key tool in many industries. Not only manufacturing, what we talk about, but also in other industries. It will have a big impact on product development, so that you actually simulate, right, in digitally simulate before you ramp up your product. Currently, I see that lots of those projects are have started, are running, but I think the next step would be maybe to, you know, if you have digital twins of different products, or let's say different parts of a human, of a patient, right? I think the next step would be, one part could be, let's say, a wearable or sensor, something like that. But the next step would be to actually combine those different you know, the data, correlate data from that is generated by multiple digital twin, and I think then you can really reap the benefits of digital twin.
Interesting. You know, I recently heard of someone working on a digital twin to help evaluate what data was needed for the patient in that situation. So in the EHR, they could pull up the data that was needed relative to the sensor data or to the situational data, or all the different data they were able to collect. So I think it's just another example. I think it is early in these days. Niels, I think, points out where it's really headed. I mean, imagine when genomics really blows up, right? Could we have a genomic digital twin and really test the pharmaceutical before we even prescribe it, right? I mean, that's big picture thinking. But you know, it took us 20 years to do the first genomic sequence, and now it takes 2 or 3 days and $1,000. So you know, the technology is
exactly,
really
you know,
coming down. So
and I think that this will go fast now, because the technologies is there. It's really about combining. But of course, one of the things that we need to take care of is the whole sensitivity around personal data. Because when we start with patient data, and actually real patient data, not anonymized, we need to be careful how we treat those data. But yes, you know, imagine you have a digital twin of yourself. You're going into a surgery, and the doctor can immediately see, you know, this is the perfect you, and this is why I am currently, and if I do this, you know, how will the twin react? But again, you know, there's also here something that, of course, you know, on ethics, that we need to make sure that we really take care of.
yeah, it's a great point. Ethics and privacy becomes a definite challenge. You know, at the population level, I think you can get it, you can do things without too many issues. But once you go to the specific patient, there's definite privacy questions there that have to be addressed,
Yeah.
and ethical ones. That's great. Well, thanks so much for sharing about digital twins. Like I said, this is a newer concept for me, so I'm excited to share this with our audience. And thanks so much for sharing. We appreciate everyone watching. If you want to check out more great health IT information like this, be sure to check it out at healthcareittoday.com. Thanks, Niels. Thanks, David.
Thanks for
Thank
being
you.
here. Thank you for having us.